welcome to this masterclass. As I was saying before, the presentation I had planned is still in the hard drive of my laptop, but it's okay. We'll do that another evening. This evening is still going to be awesome because those of you who've attended these before, give me a hands up and a me in the chat box if you've attended one of these before. Yeah, quite a few of you. Awesome, brilliant. For some of you, it's completely new. All right, so as it's completely new for some of you, I'll give you an explanation as to who I am and what we're going to do this evening because it's still going to be amazing. All right, first of all, why should you listen to me? Like, you've joined this, you've given up like 2 hours of your precious time this evening. Why should you even listen to me? Why should you even take notice of anything I've got to say? All right, well, here's the thing. I've been in your shoes, but it was in 1985. In 1985, I applied to join the police service, and I was very fortunate. I had support from one of my friend's fathers, bless his soul, has passed away now, Vincent. He was absolutely amazing. He helped me navigate what was then quite a complex recruitment process, and it still is. But it's more complex back then because it involved a total of 6 days worth of assessments. 6 days worth. Can you imagine that? 6 days worth of assessments. So it was really complicated back then. It's complicated now, but not to the same extent. And I don't think I would have passed without his help. Without his help, I think I would have gone into a completely different career. Actually, I did have a career. It was a boring one. I was in finance and oh my goodness, I just like, let me out of there. It was awful. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Sorry, if it sounds like I'm pausing a little bit, it's because I'm trying to do two things at once, let people in the room and talk to you. So I absolutely hated it. I detested it. So I really valued all of that support that I had in 1985. Wind on 4 years in the Cheshire Constabulary, which was awesome. And then 3 years in the Bermuda Police, which, yes, it was even more awesome. And yes, we did wear shorts and long socks as part of our uniform. And yes, when I was in the CID and when I was in Special Branch, I wore long socks and shorts as well. That was our uniform. It was absolutely amazing. Came back to GMP, got promoted in 1993, early 93. And very soon after that, people started asking me if I could help support them in their specialist interviews, in their promotion process. And so I did. I started getting very interested in that. In 1996, I went to do my trainer's course to be a trainer for student officers, like the ones that you're going to be soon. And I got really interested in coaching, and did some coaching qualifications, went back to university, did a master's in education where I focused on personnel evaluation systems. I know, really boring. My holiday read was the personnel evaluation standards from the University of Western Michigan. And my wife her word for me was like the geek. Oh, go and ask Daddy the geek if he wants to go out. He probably doesn't. He wants to read his boring book. But I got so into it, so interested in it. And from there, I started coaching and training the trainers to be trainers. And from there, I started coaching and training the assessors of the trainers. And from there, I started quality assuring the assessment of it all got a bit complicated, but I really, really enjoyed it, got a lot out of it, honed my skills. But it was during that period that I fell into the trap. I fell into the trap that some of you might be falling into now. How many of you have been told, oh, the police is just for you, just act naturally, just be yourself and you'll be fine? Give me a 1 in the chat box if anyone's ever said that to you, that, yeah, the job's made for you, you're perfect for it. Just act naturally. Yeah, loads of you. Act naturally, just be yourself. You'll be awesome. All we want is for your honesty. And yeah, you get all of you have been, oh, it's just like all of you, just about all of you have had that. Yeah, me too. So I had the opportunity to go for a position, a national position, which was a key role in what is now the College of Policing, in respect of taking the lead on developing the training for trainers and the training for those who assess the trainers, the trainer development officers. I actually got invited to apply. It doesn't get better than that in the police when you're actually invited to apply. And everyone was saying to me, the job's made for you. You're perfect for it. You've got the educational qualifications. You've got the experience. You've got everything. I was even invited by the chief inspector to go and attend. And so I fell for it. I fell into the trap. I fell into the trap of thinking that all I needed to do is act naturally. All I needed to do was just to be myself. All I needed to do is just show up because, I'm perfect for the role. And I failed. I can still remember being asked questions by the chief inspector, the same one who had invited me. And I was just sat there like an idiot, just thinking, I've I've been the one who's coached others to succeed in interviews. And I'm sat here now thinking, God, someone beam me up. So I was just digging this massive hole for myself. It was awful. It was awful. It was a train wreck. And naturally, I didn't get the job. I didn't get it. Um, the chief inspector gave me feedback later to say he just couldn't understand what happened. It's just like I did not live up to his expectations one bit, and I didn't get the job. I'm glad I didn't in a way, because it gave me a really good kick at the backside. It gave me this kick at the backside not to be so complacent, and not to be so complacent with those I coach. Not to be so complacent with those I coach. Because what I realized from then on, because from that point onwards, and I'm glad I didn't get that position because it would have been a long-term contract for about 5 years. In that 5 years, I got promoted to inspector and I was operational again. And that's where I needed to be. I needed to be operational. I'd spent too long out in the sticks. I spent too long at the College of Policing's Harrogate Country Club. It's been knocked down now, but honestly, it was. It's like a country club in Harrogate. Overlooked the fields and the rolling dales of North Yorkshire, and they had waiter and waitress service. God, those were the days. Anyway, I would have spent 5 years there. I would have loved it, and then gone back, and I would have been so behind that it would have been hard to go operational again. So in that 5 years, I went operational. So it's the best thing that happened and the worst thing that happened in many ways. But what it taught me was that you absolutely need to plan, prepare, and practice. If you want to succeed and you want to succeed first time, plan, prepare, practice. Didn't make the same mistake again. Went a temporary inspector for about 9 months, then went for my inspector's board, prepared for it, planned for it, practiced for it, absolutely nailed it. And I know I nailed it because as I was walking out, because they won't tell you, normally they'll call your divisional commander about an hour later when you're going for an inspector. And as I was walking out, the chair of the board did this, gave me a wink like that. It's a bit obvious about it. It went like that. And I thought, passed. And I got back to the station and my chief inspector was there saying, you know what's happened, don't you? I've got some bad news for you. I was like, don't give me that shit. I've passed. And he went, how do you know? Well, I got a wink. I got nodded a wink as I walked out. Why was I so confident? It's because I'd planned, I'd prepared, I'd practiced. And from that moment on, I realized the importance of planning, preparing, and practicing, and having systems and structures and processes that enable you to tackle anything that they're going to put in front of you, anything at all. And so that's what we're going to do this evening, because I'm going to sort of unlock the vaults to the academy program. By the way, who's in our academy program? Give me a what? There's Lucy, there's Jake, there's Liam, there's Kelly, there's Matt. Awesome. So we've got academy members here. There's probably some on the other page as well. So forgive me if one of you is waving, because there's 4 pages of you on my laptop. So if you want to grab my attention, just put your little hand up. There's a little electronic hand and you'll go to the top of my screen. Awesome. We've got some academy members here with us. For those of you who are academy members, you might be thinking, oh, I paid a lot of money for this and he's going to unlock all the secrets. Don't worry. If I wanted to unlock all the secrets, you know it'd be like, we'd have to be here for like a couple of days, wouldn't we? Give me a thumbs up if you agree with that, there's that much content there. We'd have to be here for a whole week, wouldn't we? Yeah, awesome. So that's what we're going to cover tonight. Why we're going to do this? Well, a couple of different reasons. One, I'd love it if some of you joined our academy. I love running the academy. I love having you all as part of it. I love meeting you once a week. Normally it's every Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. We have an Ask Brendan and everything. We get to hang out and I get to keep in touch with you all, because whereas this was something I've been doing now for the past 30 years, ever since I got promoted, but especially over the past 15 years focusing on recruitment with hundreds and hundreds of people who've gone before you, who have been successful. Now I've built my team up and I've got coaches who work with you. How are those coaches, by the way? Go on, give me an honest mark out of 10, where 1 is they're rubbish and 10 is they're awesome. Go on, give me oh, we've got all 10s, all 10s. And Matt saying 10 in the chat. That's awesome. Jess, loving my coach. Vic, everyone 10. That's brilliant. Awesome. They're amazing. I've recruited people, some of them who I've known for a long time. Like Andrea, I've known her since 1992. I've known her before I got promoted. She was a student officer on the team I joined when I came from Bermuda, completely like, what the hell's going on here? I've been a detective in Special Branch in Bermuda, and I came back to response policing in Wythenshawe in South Manchester. Like, my head was spinning. And Andrea helped me out. Andrea still helps me out now, but she's this awesome, amazing coach. I've got an amazing team of coaches around me. But the one thing I miss is this kind of contact. And so that's why every Wednesday evening we'll do an Ask Brendan Anything, because I just enjoy it. I just enjoy it. I love hanging out. And we ran some things like this in January. And although some of the coaches have been saying, no, you're just like giving too much stuff away. You're giving too much stuff away. I don't mind. I really, I'm prepared to sort of open up my mind and everything that we've developed over the years, because one, it'll give you an insight into the academy and the quality of what we do. And for some of you, you may think, I want more. I want to join. For others, you may think, no, that's just enough. That's all I need. And that's great. If we've helped serve you and helped you on your journey, then you'll tell other people. We want you to be successful. The academy is not for everyone. For some people, it's just not for them. For some people, it is. But I love hanging out. That's the thing I love. You'll probably work out from tonight that I've opened it up for 2.5 hours. At 2.5 hours, I'll probably just still want to keep going, but I can't because I've got a one-to-one with someone who's been successful from the academy, and I always do these one-to-ones with everyone who's successful. They're invited to do a one-to-one with me, and we just again hang out where I can congratulate them. So I have got a hard stop at 8:30. Best make it 25 past because I'll need to sort of refresh myself. So why am I doing it? Because one, I hope some of you will join our academy program. Two, I just love hanging out doing this. I miss the one-to-one contact. I miss the webinars. I really do, because the coaching team runs those now. I've called it the Ask Brendan Anything though, so they can't run that. Because they do say, well, I could run those sessions for you on Wednesday evenings. And I say, it's called Ask Brendan Anything. And it's like, Brendan, me. It's not called Ask Andrea anything, or Ask Catherine anything, or Ask Raj anything. It's Ask Brendan anything. So that's why I keep hold of those. Because I want to help support you as well. I love the fact that we get the opportunity to help you over your hurdles. If you've just got one small hurdle that you're dealing with, then you don't need our academy. And if I can just help you with that one small hurdle, then awesome. That's amazing. Because one, you'll be successful, and I get a real buzz out of that. Every time someone puts something in a Facebook group to say they've been successful, my heart starts beating. I just get so proud. I get so like, oh, that's amazing. Someone else has been successful. I love it. Um, and who knows, you may come back to us in a few years' time. I was just talking to Stuart a couple of days ago. He joined me on one of my seminars in 2017 when we used to do things pre-COVID face to face. And we've just coached him through his sergeant's board. And there was Rose a couple of months ago actually now, who's just done her fast track to inspector. I can still remember Rose coming to me in 2016 saying, I'm not sure if the police want people like me. And now she's just succeeded in a fast track to inspector. So this is what I love. I love this. I love this. So does that sound good? Does that sound like a good reason for me to run this? Does that sound like a good reason for you to actually give a shit about anything I'm saying? Like, give me one in the box. Give me one in the chat if this is reason enough for you to hang out with me for 2.5 hours. I so appreciate your time. Oh, a ton of ones. Brilliant. I'll ask for this interaction every now and then, because with a big group like this, it can be a little bit daunting, but I do like to get that contact and feedback, and I can't get it from everyone because there's just too many of you. But if I just get it from yourselves by using the chat box and stuff like that, that'd be amazing. A couple of you sent me private messages already. Okay, I'll answer those questions after. Actually, 3 people have just asked me, how do I join the academy? Let's come to that later. You don't want anyone like, no, here's how to join the academy. I've just explained why you should listen to me. Now what you're interested in is diving in, aren't you? Just like diving in. Are you ready to dive in? Give me a yes in the chat box if you're ready to dive in, if you're ready to go, if you're ready to start the masterclass and dive deep into the agenda that you're going to set. Ton of yeses. Brilliant stuff. Awesome. 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 We've even got a whoop whoop. I love that. What part of America are we in again? Whoop whoop. I love that. Brilliant. Okay, so I asked you before if you could think of something that's really difficult, like something that's really, really challenging, because I won't be able to ask all your questions. A lot of the questions you may have, you could just ask in a Facebook group and someone's going to answer it. I can answer it. Someone else is going to answer it. What's the thing that you're struggling with? I know, because I did a little survey a couple of weeks ago that one of the things that people find that really difficult is the online assessment center interview. The online assessment center interview. Shall I start the ball rolling with that? Yeah, I'm seeing a few nods. Yes, I'm getting some yeses. All right, so I'm going to start the ball rolling with that because quite a few of you said that that was a thing that you were struggling with. All right, give me a hand up. Give me the electronic hand if you have got a question and something that you're struggling with, and I will invite you to unmute yourself. Someone's saying the online assessment center is easy, but the final interview is, oh, just I can't read the last bit, but I'm intrigued to find out what the next bit. So Ali is saying the online assessment center is easy, but the final interview is hard. Okay, is that a question or is that a question? Actually, there's so many of you, I'm gonna take Dominic's question, then I'm gonna ask if you can put your questions in the chat. I think that'd be a good way of doing it. And then I can take a look at those specific questions. So if you're saying something like, I'm really stuck on the final interview, any insight? So Ikram's saying that. What part? Let's dive deep. Like I could give you a whole 4-hour session on the final interview, but what specifically is it that you're struggling with? Things like, Dan, when should you hear back after completing the online assessment center? I'm not going to go into that. That's not challenging. You can just ask that in the group. All right. I'm going to be a bit blunt here, but you could just ask that in the group, Dan. So something that's not a challenging question. I'm only going to answer challenging ones because otherwise, for the rest of you, be here like, oh, that's boring. I don't want to know the answer to that question. Okay, Dominic, I'm going to invite you to unmute yourself. And then everyone else, if you put it in the chat function, and we'll get the questions from there. So Dominic, you should be unmuted now.
Yeah, hello. You hear me, yeah?
I can, yes.
Like when I've been like practicing answers or preparing answers for different competency questions. Sometimes I feel like I've got examples of work experiences or like personal life experiences where I can cover like quite a few competencies like for different questions that like they've got different aspects, and then some of them are quite good examples that kind of all encompassing for some questions. Is it better to like have to like create like more examples, like try and like find more examples that I've got already, or is it if I've got one that kind of covers like two questions that might be in the interview, could I technically use that one because it kind of like fits it as well?
All right, Tony, questions there that I can answer for you. Dominic, you asked some really good questions there. There's actually quite a few, so let me read them back to you. You've got what I think you're saying is that you're trying to develop an answer for each one of the competencies or values. Yeah. All right. And is it better to create multiple examples, more multiple examples? Well, you may only have a certain number of good examples in your life, or have one example that covers two questions. All right, some good questions there. We shall dive into those, definitely. All right, let's take a look at oh my goodness, there's like tons of questions. If I don't get to your question, it means that I'm looking at it thinking it's not challenging. All right, is that fair? Is that fair? Give me a nod or a thumbs up. Is that fair? Okay. So the value of public service. Okay. All right. Ali's saying, Ali and B are saying the online assessment center is easy, but the final interview is hard. I'm not sure if that's a question or if it's just a statement of fact. Do you know the thing is, anything is easy if you plan, prepare, and practice for it. Fact, isn't it? That's a fact of life. Everything is easy if you plan and prepare and practice for it. I mean, I don't think there's many of you in the room that can ride a bike that rode your bike first time, rode it around the block first time without falling off. Is there? Are there any of you that got in a car for you to drive it, first lesson before you did your driving test, like a few weeks later or a few months later, and you got in the car and you drove off perfectly, and the clutch thing and the accelerator thing and all of that stuff all went perfectly? No, just doesn't happen. It might happen now because you've got electric cars, haven't you? You don't really have to do anything. I was just trying to remember, actually, we've got an electric car, and I was trying to remember, is it clutch, accelerate, those old-fashioned things, gear stick? But back then, that was hard stuff. So, look, Ali, some people find it really hard, the online assessment center, especially if you're speaking to a camera and you're not used to that, or especially this concept of in the briefing exercise. It's not really a briefing. You're going to get given a scenario, and then you've got 12 questions to answer. You've got 1 minute to think about each question, and then 3 minutes to deliver an answer. For some people, that's just not easy. So Ali, let's be careful there, because it's not easy for everyone, because people fail it. If it's easy, everyone would pass it, wouldn't they? And they don't. I think the college policing data tells us it's between about 50 and 60% pass it. It gets that where they weed people out is the final interview. Okay, so all right, let's just have a look. Any insight into final interview? Got to be more specific to that. Janice is saying DC DHEP final interview investigative exercise. Oh, we can look at that. All right, take a look at that. Dress code, smart. Smart. OAC question examples. Oh, can we get some of those? Let me just have a look. I should have prepared for this, shouldn't I? It's been one hell of a day. Have I got my practice questions here? I've got briefing exercise. No. I've got it somewhere. We've got a question bank. Interview practice questions. There we go. Yes, I can. I've got some interview practice questions. So let's just put those to one side. Let's just see. Kelly's saying, hated national SIFT, failed first time. Didn't like to have to answer each option with a stupid rating. Kelly, if you've got that to do again, and anyone else has got the national SIFT, I did say there's going to be a bonus tonight as well. Later on, I'll reveal a bit of a bonus for actually joining me tonight. So later on, around 8 o'clock, I'll tell you what the bonus is. But here's another bonus I'll give you, just because Kelly said I failed the national SIFT. As a thank you for joining me tonight, if any of you have your national SIFT ahead of you, email me, Brendan, Brendan, Brendan at bluelightconsultancy.com. Brendan at bluelightconsultancy.com. And just say, hey, I was on Brendan's webinar. I was on your webinar. Can you send me your complimentary national SIFT course? And we'll make sure you pass next time. Does that sound good? Give me a thumbs up if that sounds good, even if you've done national SIFT. Does that sound like a fair deal? Yeah, awesome stuff. Ali's saying, can you please discuss how to answer questions like what the roles and responsibilities of the job are? Yes. Okay, and that's Ali. That's that question. Sarah's saying, final interview in a few weeks, detective investigative exercise. What to do to practice for it? I've already got that. So that's Sarah, who's asked that as well. Jessica, final interview tomorrow. Will the questions be similar to the online assessment center? No, they won't. They won't. They absolutely won't be. Depends on the force, but there's over 50 different types of final interview. There's over 50 forces in the United Kingdom. There's over 50 different types of final interview. They don't have to run to any college of policing anything. And they make up their own rules. They make up their own questions as they go along. Some of the questions, I just don't get them. Actually, I'll share one of the questions with you now, which I just don't get. It's there's a force out there that asks this question. It's a scenario-based question. You're at a party. You're a detective, so it's for the detective process. You're at a party, and you start talking to someone who's a journalist, and they're asking you questions about your fascinating role and what you do. And they ask you, is there an example of something you're dealing with at the moment that you can talk about? And you reveal to them the details about a rape case that you're dealing with. And you actually reveal information that could lead to the identity of the victim. And the next day it's in the newspaper. How are you going to manage that? We've had to sort of guide people on an answer that is probably going to hit the points that they're looking for, but The answer is go and fall on your sword. Go and speak to your sergeant and say, I've done something really stupid. Not only have I broken the code of ethics, but I think I've probably broken the law as well. In that I've perverted the course of justice, because this case is going to collapse now and it's down to me. So put the handcuffs on now. Arrest me and put the handcuffs on, because not only are you going to lose your job, it is a gross misconduct, but you are probably going to do some. You may do some jail time for misconduct in public service, or perverting the course of justice, either or. So, and this is what happens when forces make up their own questions. Now that's an extreme. As a team, we've talked about this one and gone, rack brains. We don't get it. We just don't get this question, because the only answer for it is fall on your sword. There's no way out. It's a gross misconduct. What you've just done at that party is a gross misconduct, which would lead to a dismissal. And the likely outcome of that will be a dismissal, because the case will collapse, because it's been all over the newspaper about the victim. It's going to collapse. The CPS won't run it. But instead, what we've come up with is something a little bit different. Reckon our brains thinking, what do they want? I would just resign there and then. It's not, that can't be what they're looking for in an answer. So we took a look at the values and competencies and we came up with something. Some ideas, some pointers, a template. We don't give people the answers, by the way. We just give people pointers and sort of suggestions. We don't cross that ethical line of giving people the answers. That's just not what we do. If anyone comes on one of our discovery calls and says, look, the only reason why I want to join your academy is so you can give me the answers, then it's just like, no, sorry, it's not for you. Good night. Yeah, but I'm prepared to pay. We don't care. It's not for you. We're not prepared to work with you. That's it. It's just like, that's it. So, every now and then a rogue question crops up. And there was another force a couple of years ago who had a question where they give you the definition of the unlawful taking of a motor vehicle and ask you to discuss in a written answer the points to prove. What the? Oh, wow. What's that madness? So I'll give you some examples of forced questions, because they're not all like the online assessment center. They really aren't. Okay, cool. Matt's saying OAC briefing and written. Oh, the book's out of date, I'm afraid. That's why I'm not going to do another one. I might do a digital book in the future, but not a paperback. Everyone seems to know what the OAC questions are going to be. How do I find out? I've Googled it. I can't find out much, which is why you're here. We can kind of work out what questions are going to be for the online assessment center. We reverse engineer them. Remember, GEEK, Masters in Education, Personnel Evaluation Standards. When I look at things like the CVF, I'm in my happy place. I can reverse engineer what the questions are going to be. I've been doing it for decades. CBI and briefing. Okay, all right. And that's Levi asking that. So we'll start in a minute. Can I write the email in the chat? I can, yeah. Let me just put my email in the chat. Meeting group chat. Oh, how do I do it to everyone? All right, okay, here we go. I think this is. And if you do have any other questions, please feel free to email me, as long as it's not like, how many stages are there in the online assessment center. But if you're really struggling with something, you can always email me. I'll do my best to answer. Brendan at Blue. Oh God, no, hang on. What the hell? That's not my email address. Brendan at bluelightconsultancy.com. All right, that should go to everyone. There's my email address. Okay, so B is asking, why does the Met Police not provide any feedback on the final interview stage? Because it's the Met. A lot of forces don't give you any feedback whatsoever. Whether you pass or fail, they don't give you any feedback. And if you fail, you may have to wait 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. Or there's one force that just asks you not to come back, which is a bit weird, isn't it? So Brendan S is asking, I've done the search assessment center pre-COVID. Now I've got the online assessment center coming up. How does it differ? I'll go to my YouTube channel. There's some questions there. Best way for young applicants to make themselves sound like they've got life experience. Jack, what an awesome question. I love that one. All right, I think I'm going to make a start in a moment. Oh, Ali's asking about impact of the role on you and your family. Yeah, okay, can do that as well. Someone's saying, is that different to academy members? Kelly, I don't understand that. Ikram's saying, coming across arrogant if I spoke confidently about current issues. Why would you come across as arrogant? I would, if I heard you talking about current issues in policing, I'd be thinking this individual's done their research. Okay, cool. There's some other questions. All right, I can't get around to them all, but do you think we've got a good set of questions there? We've got a good set of questions. What do you think? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a one in the chat box. Let's get interacting again. Kelly's saying the complimentary course. You said. Hang on. Let's just go to that bottom. Let's go to Kelly's quick question there. Complimentary course. Is it different to the academy? Oh yes, it's so different. Oh my goodness. This is just an online course for the National SIFT. The academy is like huge amount of online material, three times weekly webinars, 4 years worth of recordings of the webinars, practice webinars, one-to-one coaching. There's a lot more to it. This is just, yeah. Oh, Kelly's saying, okay, as I'm with the academy. All right, great. Well, Kelly, you're all set. You're all set, Kelly. You're all set. If you need the National SIFT program as part of the academy, we'll just give it you. We'll just give you anything you need. If you're an academy member, you just get anything you need. All right, we're ready to go. You give me some ones, give me the thumbs up. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, let's dive in. So Dominic asked a really good question about all the different competencies and the values. I think what Dominic's raised there is one of the traps. So we're all familiar with this now, aren't we? My friend, the Wheel of Confusion. That's the 2024 version from the Competency and Values Framework. And yes, you still have to print off all the different pages to it separately because the College of Policing have not put together a PDF yet, which I just don't get why they've not done that. It drives me nuts. I've just got all these bits of paper hanging around. So there's the 2024 version. Some of you are still being sent the link for your final interview for the 2016 Wheel of Confusion. Some of you are being sent the link to this, and then when you get to the interview, they tell you you're going to be assessed against the 2024 version. And for some of you, that's causing a bit of a panic. Can I just put your souls at rest? Because the questions are going to be the same. All right, here's the first thing to say about the CVF. The questions are going to be the same. They're not going to change the questions. They may have tinkered with the marking guide a little bit, but the questions are probably going to be the same, except for the questions around maybe integrity, courage. They may be slightly different, but the value has changed a lot from integrity to courage. That's the biggest change. But the questions will still be around things like, tell me about a time when you've challenged someone's inappropriate behavior. You know, there's still going to be questions of that ilk, of that nature. Tell me about a time when you've stood up for someone who was standing up for the right thing. Or tell me about a time when you stood up for someone who was being bullied or was being sidelined in the workplace. You know, these are all things that require the value of courage, and they're pretty much the same as the value of integrity. Not that different, really. Not that different. They've just changed the wording because I think under integrity, the old integrity value is a bit woolly in places. It didn't really make it specific as to what was expected from you. So I think that's the biggest change with the CVF. Do I need to have an answer for each one of the questions? That's the trap, by the way. Sometimes you'll hear me talk about things like this. This is the trap. Excuse me. So if I'm using the 2014 version and I go to something like, I don't know, can someone just put in the chat, first person to give me one of the CVFs, I'll actually dig it out from here and I'll tell you why it's a trap. So first person to give me one of those in the chat box. Public service. All right, great. So that rolled in straight away. Public service. So if I look at that's nice and easy. Thank you, because that's the first one, Ali. So if I go to public service, I made it easy for me. Ali's not a plant, by the way. It's just like made it easy for me. If I look at examples of public service, it gives you the behavioral statements as to what they're looking for. That's what the CVF does. All right. And that bottom bit there, it gives you the behavioral statements. So if you thought the question was going to be as simple as, please, can you tell me about a time when you have provided an excellent public service or an excellent service, because not everyone is in the public sector. So tell me about a time when you've delivered an excellent level of service. Now, you could get asked that question. It's so vague though. You could fill that answer with so much stuff, so much stuff. But what they tend to do is get the questions from the behaviors. The questions normally come from the behaviors. Normally. So if we look at some of the behaviors in here, one of them is I seek to understand and address the needs and concerns of our different communities. So I seek to understand and address the needs and concerns of all of our different communities. Now, no interviewer is going to expect you to have done that. Full stop. They're not going to expect you to have done that. And so the question will probably get phrased something like, can you tell me about a time when you've had to understand someone else's diverse needs and concerns in order to support them, in order to help them? So a time when you've had to understand someone else's needs and concerns so that you can support them. So you can see how they've used the behavior and they've got the question. The questions derived from the behavior. I used to write the questions for the College of Policing, so I know this is how they do them. I've worked for and with the College of Policing on 4 occasions during my career, twice when I was in the police and twice outside of the police. So I know how they do things. I used to write the questions for the question banks when I was a trainer of student officers. So seek to understand the needs and concerns of an individual in order that you can help them, support them. Right. Another one of the behaviors in there talks about reflecting on your own strengths and areas for development and taking responsibility for your own learning. So the question there would be, can you tell me about a time when you have made a mistake, reflected on it, and done something different as a result? Can you tell me about a time when you've made a mistake, reflected on it, and done something different as a result? Can you see how they're 2 different questions? They're so different, aren't they? So if you thought, oh, I've got a public service answer, and it's just this vague example of when you've delivered good service, and then you're asked one of those questions, you could get floored, completely floored, couldn't you? Give me a 2 in the chat if you think, God, that could completely floor me. I could go to an interview and just get completely thrown. Oh yeah, 100%. It's like almost all of you there. Wow. Yeah. And so this is why it's such a good question that Dominic has asked, because it's just, I see it in the Facebook group sometimes. Sometimes I delete the comments when people say, make sure you've got an answer for each one of the competencies or the values, because it's the trap. It's absolutely the trap. So what we need to be doing instead, this is what we need to do instead, and this is what we do in the Academy program, is we'll encourage our candidates to think deep in terms of things that they've done in their life that are challenging and difficult. Things they've done in their life that are challenging and difficult. Things where they've had to make a difficult decision, where they've had to work with others to solve a problem, where they've had to plan and prioritize with other people to solve a problem, where they've supported someone who is vulnerable, where they've challenged someone's inappropriate behavior, where they've overcome an obstacle, where they've had to change the style of their communication to meet the needs of another person. And all of those sort of things in the context of other people. In the context of other people. When you include other people in your answers, and make a note of this. If you're making notes, if you're not making notes, you should make a note of this. If you are making notes, you should make a note of this. A couple of different things that are needed for your answer. 1, involve other people. 2, make sure it's something that was challenging or difficult. So no matter, so now we've got like a pool of about 8 things that we've done in our life so that you can use those to answer any question, because if you've got in detailed scenarios of things that you've done in your life that include those things, you can pretty much answer anything they ask you. That's a rear-facing question, which starts off with, tell me about a time when. Promise you. After we've worked with you, you'll be able to do that. Promise you. Absolutely promise you. I've been doing it for 30 years, 31 years now. So, Janice is just asking, can I repeat that, please? The list, please. You're testing me, Janice. You're like, Janice is testing me to see if I can say the same thing again. I can. I've been doing this for a long time. So, a difficult decision. So, something, this isn't necessarily the question, or it could be the question, but you need to have a scenario that's involved a difficult decision that you made, not that someone else made, because I have that sometimes in answers. I'd be like, so where was the difficult decision? Oh, it's the one that my boss made. Yeah, I've asked a question about when you made the difficult decision, not the one your boss made. Or the team made the difficult decision. I don't want to know about when the team made the difficult decision. I want to know about when you made the difficult decision. So difficult decisions, collaborating with others to solve a problem, planning and prioritizing, supporting vulnerable people, supporting a vulnerable person, challenging inappropriate behavior, overcoming an obstacle. What else could you get? You may get things around, oh yeah, changing the style of your communication to meet the needs of others. Some forces as well are really big on diversity, equality, and inclusion. So they may ask a question which would be along the lines of, what have you done to ensure that your workplace or where you volunteer or your college is a more inclusive place? Are you ready for that? Who's ready? Honestly, give me a 5 in the box if you feel as though you're ready for that question. And suddenly nothing popped up in the chat box. So these are the sort of questions that you could get asked. So we want to have, Louise is saying I work from home. It's all right, it's okay. Louise, I think you're in our academy, aren't you? If it's the right name I'm thinking of. We can work on that. We can work on that because it doesn't have to be in the workplace. It doesn't have to be in the workplace. One of my clients, Anna, she now works with vulnerable people in protective services as a detective in the Met. She spent, I think it was about 14 years as a stay-at-home mum. 14 years as a stay-at-home mum. She's got 4 kids. And she's like, how am I going to get into the police? I've not worked for 14 years. All the examples we used were from the past few years, but they came from different facets of her life. Even things like her sister was getting married and the wedding planner dropped out. And she took over that role with about 3 days' notice. Working with others, solve a difficult or challenging problem. She talked about a role in the Parent-Teacher Association. So, look, it doesn't have to be from the workplace. It just has to demonstrate the values that are intrinsically within you. Does that make sense? So it doesn't have to be from the workplace. If anyone's like, I work from home, as long as you leave the house at some point, Louise, as long as you actually get out when you do something. Yeah. Oh, Louise is saying plenty of challenging PTA situations. Awesome. Yeah. Has anyone ever been the chair of a PTA, by the way? I have. I'm a governor at the kids' school as well. I'm a glutton for public service. I used to be a scout leader as well, but it just all became a bit much over COVID. So I ditched the scout lead a bit. But Louise ditto, yeah. So if you've been the chair of a PTA, trust me, it's more challenging than being an inspector in the police. Honestly, I never knew challenging until I became the chair of the PTA. I won't even tell you about the problems around the PTA shed. Oh my goodness. Difficult. Anyway, I go off at a tangent, which I sometimes do. So this is how we avoid the trap. We make sure that we've got answers for all of those sort of questions. And that way we don't have to worry about, oh God, which one of the competencies is this from? Oh, I can't remember all the behaviors from it. Because if any of you can remember all of the behaviors from every one of the values and the competencies, put a 10 in the box. I'd love to meet you. What? No one. That's okay, because I've been working with this stuff now for decades. In the early noughties, I was on a national steering group developing the National Occupational Standards, the precursor to the Competency and Values Framework. And by the way, we would never have intended it to be so complicated. We would never have intended it to be so complicated 25 years ago. So, and I work with this stuff, and I can't remember it all. I just can't remember it all. So, if any of you can, good luck to you, but you just can't. So, stop fretting at your interview about which one of the values or competencies it's from. Just don't fret about that. It's not as important as actually answering the question with good structure, good level of detail, some emotional connect, some authenticity, and make sure you actually answer the question. The amount of times in our academy sessions where we'll practice a question like, can you tell me about a time when you've made a difficult decision where you've had to account for that decision to other people? And we'll get to the end of the answer. Great, it sounds great. Like this awesome 4-minute long answer, 5-minute long answer. And it's got all the detail in it, the right structure, authenticity, some emotional connect. It's ticking all of those boxes. And at the end of it, I'll ask the question, so where was the difficult decision? And they'll go, ah, yeah, good point. Yeah, because they didn't actually talk about the difficult decision. So you've got to make sure you answer the question, all right? I know it sounds simple, but answer the question. Answer the question. Goodness, we've not even got through all of Dominic's things, have we? Is that answer any quick? Where's Dominic? I can't see him. That will have answered his question, I'm quite sure. Other part of what Dominic's multiple questions were was use one example for 2 questions. No. You could, but as an interviewer, if I heard you saying, so in this situation, I'm going to talk about blah, 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 and I'd probably stop you and go, isn't that the same situation you talked about 2 questions ago? And you're going to go, yeah. Could you think of another one, please? Can you give us another example? And when that happens, you're going to get thrown, aren't you? Can you imagine being said that? Can you imagine having an interview just going, stopping you, just going, I'm going to stop. Sorry, I'm going to stop you there because this sounds very much like the example you gave 2 questions ago. Is it the same situation? And you're going to go, yeah. I mean, how small are you going to feel now? Like you'd be in the chair thinking, I wish this chair could just like fold around me and beam me up somewhere. So, we want to make sure that our answers are from different situations. There's only once I've ever advocated this, and it's for one of our clients she was just awesome. She got told there and then at the end of the interview that you passed, just like, you've so passed. They loved her. You'll get an email tomorrow telling you the official notification, but I'm going to put you out your misery. You've definitely passed. That was just a great interview. And she did use an example, but it was a very long, complicated incident that involved, she was a volunteer at a youth group. She was 18 years old, by the way, putting it into context for Jack, about young people and life experience. She's 18 years old. She was a volunteer at the youth group that she'd grown up in, and she volunteered to actually be a youth leader there. And there were 2 young boys who the mum brought them both, the 2 brothers who were really struggling with making friends, really struggling at school. And the mum came almost pleading like, is there anything you can do to help them? They don't get out much. They've not got friends, all of that kind of stuff. And so one of the problems was talking about how she got to integrate them into the youth group and they didn't have an onboarding policy. Can you imagine an 18-year-old at an interview talking about onboarding policies for the youth group? And so that was how she eased them into the youth group. And I think she talked about supporting vulnerable people. So the vulnerable people, they came from very troubled backgrounds. Great answer. But she identified that there's no onboarding process. Well, actually, she didn't identify it because I asked her the question, was there an onboarding process? And she said, we don't have one. Great. We've got 4 weeks to get to your interview. What I want you to do now is to go back to your fellow youth leaders, the ones that are adults, and highlight at the next meeting that there's no onboarding policy and we need one. And so then she got to collaborate with others in order to develop an onboarding policy, which we also talked about this in the one-to-one, which also included, because I asked her, do you have young people like you acting as ambassadors? So like 13, 14-year-olds who aren't ready to be youth leaders yet, but they're ready to be ambassadors and be buddies for other young people coming in. Do you have that? And she went, no. So great. Now you've got some ideas. Let's create some more ideas. So we created some more. So when she went to her peers, the adults running the youth group, and said, we've not got an onboarding policy, not only was she going to them saying, we've not got an onboarding policy, but she went to them saying, and here I've got some suggestions. And then what she did was took responsibility for creating that onboarding policy and actually rolling it out in the youth group. So it was, you see how it's all the same incident? It's all the same thing, but she could split that one up into two vulnerable people who she helped support and collaborating with others to solve a problem. So that was the same incident, but it was a long drawn out thing. Long drawn out thing. Ikram was saying that's an epic story. That's why they told her there and then, you've passed. I mean, not just at 18. Can you imagine anyone going for an interview with that level of insight into the complexities of working alongside other people? That's what they're looking for. That's what an outstanding answer looks like, by the way. You know, being able to deliver something like that. And I can't even remember, she can't remember what the competencies or values were that she was being assessed against, nor did she care. Nor did she care. And can I let you into a little secret? We've got something called the Promotion Academy, where we've got people who are going for their sergeant's board, their inspector's board. They're looking to get these things. Ta-da! These are my old epaulets, by the way. I keep them here, just like, oh, I used to wear those. My old epaulets. They're going for sergeant, they're going for inspector, they're going all the way up to chief superintendent. And very soon we're hoping to have a chief officer, retired chief officer on our team to help coach people going for chief officer ranks. So we've got all of that in place. A lot of them do the interviews. A lot of them do the interviews. Would it surprise you if I told you that the training that they've had is a 2-hour online package at best, mostly nothing? Mostly nothing. The highly trained interviewers that they talk about, they've had 2 hours at the most or nothing. And they call this the wheel of confusion as well. Right? They call it the same thing. They call it the wheel of confusion. So it's the same thing. They don't understand. They are not listening to you thinking, that's a really good example of public service. I love the way they described those behaviors and linked it in with the value of courage. They you know, as they walked out the room, I just thought, this person knows the CVF inside and out, and will make an amazing police officer because of that. Has no interviewer ever said ever. What they will say, and I know this because I've been there, and all of our team have been there as well. What they will say is things like, I can really see them on my team. You know, the question they get when they talked about X, Y, and Z, I just thought that is so, I can see them dropping into the team and actually doing that with the rest of the team. Because the questions they're going to ask you all relate to policing. So forget, I'm not going to say this, I was going to say forget the stupid values and competencies. Be aware of them, be cognizant of them, but don't be led by them. Because as soon as you start being led by them, you'll end up talking like an arse as well. Seriously, you'll end up talking nonsense. Have any of you seen my YouTube video where I give you the ideal interview answer? Has anyone seen that one? Yeah. Tom's seen it. What's the punchline at the end of it, Tom? I'm just going to mute you. Can you remember? Or did you get that far, or did you like sack it?
I can't remember the punchline. Sorry to say that.
Right. Okay. Oh, oops. That didn't work well, did it?
Well.
Now you know I don't use people as plants in this webinar. If Tom was a plant, he'd be going, yeah, of course, Brendan. So what happened in the first part of the video was you explained blah, 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 blah. Yeah. All right. I'll briefly outline it to you. Did anyone else watch that one? Do you even know I've got a YouTube channel? So what I did was, I'll tell you what I did. All right, I'm just going to take one at random. Let's get one at random. Analyze critically. So analyze critically. Oh, by the way, it doesn't mean, I was talking to a recruiter the other day who said that one of the interviews, they asked a question, can you tell me about a time when you've had to analyze information in order to make a difficult decision? And they talked about the war in Bosnia in the 1990s, how they analyzed the war in Bosnia as part of a project. It's like, no, they don't mean that, by the way. They don't mean that. So what I did was, you probably realize what the punchline is. what I did is I gave here's an example answer, and I just paraphrased all of these behaviors. So if I said as part of the action phase of an answer, so one of the things I did when I was approaching the problem was I had to recognize that I needed to think critically about the challenges that existed. And I had to put aside my assumptions. I had to collect information and data from other people because I knew this was the only way I was going to be able to make a better decision. And so I collected the information, I absorbed it and interpreted it accurately. And I separated what was relevant and what wasn't relevant. And this enabled me to solve the problem by understanding the reasons behind them, the root causes. And I was able to use the learning from those things that I uncovered in order to take action to solve the problem. Now, some of you might be thinking, honestly, if I just said that to you, if I just said to you, be honest with me, if I just said to you in this masterclass, I'm going to give you a partial answer to a question, which is exactly what they're looking for, because it's going to be just what they're looking for. And if I gave you that with conviction, without actually revealing the punchline, give me a 1 in the room. Give me a 1 if honestly you would have believed me and have gone, yeah, that sounds really good, that, Brendan. Give me a 1 if you would have believed it. Give me a 2 if you would have been like, no, I would have said you're full of shit, Brendan, just like full of bullshit. Go on, be honest. Well, you're all coming out with 2s. Some 1s, all right. Some of you are being honest. Come on, like, as I've done this, I did it on one of the Academy Ask Brendan Anythings, and all the Academy members were like, oh, sounds great, that, Brendan. And I was saying, look, no, be honest with me. I've got broad shoulders, Be honest. Be honest with me. And they're all like, no, it sounds great. Yeah. About 7 out of 10. And I'm saying, I wouldn't even give myself a 1 out of 10. Because all I was doing, Emma's saying, I remember the video now, definitely, yeah. All I was doing is paraphrasing these behaviors. So here's another trap, folks. If you fall into this trap, you will find yourself digging a big hole. Because what's going to happen on your interview is they are going to, yeah, I know what I'd do. I know exactly what I would do. So it would get to the end of your answer, and I'd go, that sounds fascinating, that. Fascinating. I noticed that you said you recognize the need to think critically about the challenges that you're facing. And that you understood, took steps to understand the reasons why, the root causes. How exactly did you do that? And I'll just ask you loads of questions like, how did you do that? How did you do that? How did you do that? And I'll tie you up in so many knots that you'd be thinking, I wish I'd not listened to that person in the Facebook group who said, you just need to remember buzzwords from the CVF, because I'll annihilate you if you do that to me. And I've got angry with people in interviews before. I don't show my anger. I put my poker face on, and I'll just go back to the bullshit they've given me, and I'll just ask loads of probing questions about it. Because remember, the people who are interviewing in your final interview aren't like the people on your online assessment center. The people who are marking your online assessment center, I don't think they've ever been in the police before. Because in my years of doing this, in my 4 occasions where I've worked for and with the College of Policing, I've only met 2 people who are assessors for the assessment center. 2. And both of them were retired, and both of them have never been in the police before. And both of them told me how their cadre of assessors, none of them have been in the police. I'm super well connected in the police, super well connected with retired police officers. I've not met one yet, not met one who assesses for the online assessment center. So they just get this. Who are they then? I think one of them was a retired teacher and the other one used to work in a bank. The online assessment center, and I think the people who designed the online assessment center as well, I know I'm going off at tangent here, but I think the people who designed it, I don't think they'd ever been in the police. I'll come to that in a moment. Actually, the OAC non-police thing, I'll write that down. We know exactly why. I know exactly why they weren't in the police, the people who designed it. So anyway, can you see why buzzwords don't work? Right, you try and buzzword me, I'll just annihilate you. I'll just ask you lots of questions about how. Brendan S is saying I've got to drop off. That's all right. It's okay. It's cool. No problem. I'll reach out to you. That's fine, Brendan. I love it when other people called Brendan reach out to me. I get the chance to have a phone call sometimes with them and go, hey, Brendan, how's it going? I just think it's weird. I don't know why. Just don't know why I think it's weird. Anyway, Um, hmm. Are we good to move on from Dominic's? Some of the stuff came out of Dominic's question there, didn't it? Was that? Give me a mark. Give me some marks out of 10. All right, if that added value, like where 10 is that's super lot of value, and 1 is no, that's nonsense. Awesome. Oh, 11. Wow. Oh, Kelly gave me a 9. Oh, Kelly, you're a harsh marker. I'm tempted to go back to Kelly and say 12. Ace, brilliant. I'd be tempted to go back to Kelly and say this is what police officers do. So 9 out of 10. So what would I need to do to get the 9 to become a 9.5? Anyway, I'm not going to ask that question. I'd ask that question in my one-to-ones maybe. All right. Public service. We've covered that one. Someone asked, could you talk about public service? We did that, didn't we? I gave you some possible questions. Sarah has asked about the DC exercise. And for anyone else who's thinking, oh, I'm not going to be a detective, listen in, because you could get a forward-facing question in your interview that asks you how you're going to deal with aspects of a crime. So let me give you this one question in case any of you are thinking, oh, I don't need to, detective stuff, I don't need to know about it. This is a question that's being asked at the moment by a force. So I'd like you to imagine that you've been successful in the recruitment process. You are now an officer out on independent patrol, which means that you're out on your own. And we've received a call of what sounds like a domestic incident taking place. And you've been dispatched to it. And you get to the door and it's all quiet. It's all quiet. And the neighbours had said they heard some screaming, but it's all quiet. And you knock on the door and the door is opened by a woman who appears a little bit dishevelled. She's got some reddening around the face and some reddening on her arms. She's wearing a short sleeve t-shirt, some reddening on her arms, reddening around the face. And it looks like she's been crying. And you can see at the top of the stairs, there's a little girl sat at the top of the stairs who also appears upset. And you tell her why you've attended. And she says, oh, Dad, oh, that was the television. I had a film on that was really loud. There's a lot of screaming on it. I'm really sorry. Have I disturbed the neighbours? And you then ask the question, but you seem a bit upset. And she says, oh, yeah, I've just received some news. A friend of mine's dog's just died. And I'm just really, really upset about it. Now what? What are you going to do? It's a forward-facing scenario question. You may be thinking, oh, I'm not going for a detective role. Well, they're going to ask you questions about how you're going to deal with crime. Because guess what? If you're going to be a police officer, what do you think you're going to be doing most of the time? Dealing with crime things, investigating things, dealing with social problems. You know, you're out there on the front line dealing with this sort of thing. You'll start your answer, and then about a minute into it, they'll say, I've got an update for you. A man is now walking up the driveway. He appears quite angry and is shouting at you, who the fuck are you? Get the fuck off my driveway now. Go on, fuck off. What are you going to do? So, it's a rhetorical question. It's okay, Mark. You don't have to answer it. It's okay. It's just, these are the questions that you're going to go asked. So, right. What they're going to do for the detective process, I'll talk about what the Met do. And actually, the College of Policing, I think, used their model for the detective interview case study. I think they based it on the Met one. Because forces, although they invent their own interview questions for the final interview, most forces are tending to use the case study from the College of Policing. And it's very similar to one that the Met started using about 5 years ago now. No, geez, yeah, it's about five or 6 years ago. 6 years ago. The direct entry detective scheme has been in place for about 6 or 7 years. And the Met Police pioneered the direct entry bolt-on for detectives. They pioneered it. And there's 2 different aspects to it. One of them is a written exercise where they give you an entry of things that you might be dealing with. It's designed to overwhelm you and designed to see how you can plan and prioritize. I'm not going to cover that now, but they also give you a scenario, and it's based on an assault that's taken place. And I'm going to morph the 2 together, actually, the College of Policing version and the Met version. Multiple witnesses. There's a victim. There's a reluctant witness. There's a scene that's been created. There's someone in hospital. There's a load of stuff going on, right? There's a load of stuff going on. Very atypical of the sort of thing that you'd be dealing with as a detective. Very atypical. A community that doesn't trust the police. There's some CCTV, but you've got to find it first. They're going to give you that kind of scenario. Is that making sense so far? Give me a one in the chat box if this is making sense so far. All right, they give you a lot more detail. Great, it's making sense so far. Good. So one of the things they're looking for is, can you approach this in a structured way? Because they're going to give you 10 minutes to give a briefing. That's what the Met do. You've got 10 minutes to give a briefing. And then what they don't tell you is there's a secret interview at the end of it. I'll come to the secret interview in a moment. So you may think, oh, I've delivered my briefing now, that's it. No, there's like a secret interview at the end of it. So you probably worked out that I love models and systems. One of the things that helped me throughout my police service was models, systems, and structures. And a lot of the ones that we use in our academy are proprietary to Blue Light. So the way we utilize CUDSAR, which is a non-contact conflict management model that we adapted from a 1996 public order model that I came across when I was a trainer of trainers, when I was training public order trainers. We adapted that to deal with role plays. There's the 4 C's for when we're looking for, in the written exercise, we're looking for certain people in the community who are assets, people who are capable, connected, they care enough to act, and if given the opportunity to do so, will commit to take action. There's things like TPAC. If we're doing any enforcement, which is the E of TPAC, we do trust building, we do enforcement, we do prevention, we do advocacy for the community and for the victim and for the suspect, and we do communication. So things like that are proprietary things that they don't exist. You could try and Google those things now and it'll probably just come up with my YouTube videos. If I've actually talked about those things on YouTube videos. So I'll come to the detective part in a moment and about the scenario, but something I didn't mention before is I spent so much of time in my career developing systems, processes, and structures to deal with things. Because what I realized once I joined the police is that I don't belong in many ways. So if anyone joins the police and thinks I don't belong, then that's okay. Imposter syndrome. Does anyone fear that actually? Does anyone fear, I know I go off at tangents, but does anyone fear that they may get this sort of sense of imposter syndrome? I don't belong here, and give me an honest one in the chat box if that's you. Yeah, getting yeses and ones. Brilliant. Yeah, a load of you. Yeah, 100%. I'll share with you something here. I spent most of my career feeling out of place. And I think it's because, 6 months ago, I had an ADHD assessment because my wife works in the world of neurodivergent students. She helps support them. And I had an ADHD assessment. And there was no surprises, really. There was no surprises. And you may be thinking, for any of you who are neurodivergent, thinking, is the police going to welcome people like me? Absolutely, absolutely. But the one thing you may need a helping hand with is systems, processes, and structures. So it's a structured environment, but it's not so structured that I found myself going off at tangents when I was a younger police officer and sometimes getting into trouble for it with my sergeant. They'd be like, I thought I told you to do X, not Y. And I'd be like, yeah, but Y made more sense to me. Yeah, but I'm your sergeant. I told you to do X. So I'd get myself in a spot of bother. And so what I had to do was develop systems, processes, and structures. And I found as I went through my career, these became really useful. So like TPAC is actually what we did as a neighborhood team when I was a neighborhood inspector. If we ever did any enforcement, if we ever did a search warrant, we would also have a checklist of things that we had to do around trust building, around preventative work, around advocacy for the community, the victim, the suspect, and any witnesses, and communicate. These were things that were just like bedded into what we did: systems, structures, processes. Is that making sense? That, for when something is happening really quickly and it's fast moving, you've just got to rely on systems, processes, structures. Systems, processes, structures, and planning and practicing for them, so that you know these things inside and out, so that whether it's a plane falling out of the sky well, I've never actually dealt with one of those, but I've dealt with things like a chopped up body in a bath, or a man shot in the middle of the road, killed in the middle of a road, or a baby that the father thought they could stop them crying by sitting them down on the hot ring of an electric cooker, electric hob, like burnt the backside, and lots of other things. But if you treat all of those things in that systematic, structured way, it'll help you out. Is that making sense? Yeah, give me some thumbs up. We don't have to put any ones in the chat box. Just give me a thumbs up. Right. Okay, so we do the same thing. We do exactly the same thing for the detective process. And this is where I'm going to use my whiteboard. Can you all see this? You all see it? Is that the letters big enough? All right, cool. So my daughter's told me not to say cool. She says, like, you're too old, Daddy. Just like, don't say that. Just don't say that. Fortunately, she doesn't say things like, what is it, no cap, zebedee, skibbity or something. I don't know, whatever that language is. My little boy does. It drives me nuts. Actually, zebedee isn't one of them. I started using zebedee. If you're of a certain age, you'll remember zebedee. Yeah, Louise is nodding away. I can see Louise nodding. If you're of a certain age, you'll remember zebedee. And so I've got him and all his mates, instead of saying skibbity now, they say zebedee. I just think it's hilarious. I hear them going, yeah, yeah. I hear them talking because they do like train stuff. And they've got a WhatsApp group and they all love trains. They've got something called Train Sim. And they'll go, yeah, oh, that's zebedee, that is. And I'm thinking, yes, I've influenced the Gen Zers to go back to something called the Magic Roundabout. Anyway, I'm going off at a tangent. You want to know about detective stuff, don't you? Not the Magic Roundabout and Gen Z. So we use something called IIMARCH. This stands for, whoops. I'm going to highlight a couple of bits first. Okay. What most people do when they're given that scenario is they go straight into a method. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I do. These are all the things I do. I'd get someone to protect the scene. I'd go to the hospital. I'd go and do door-to-door inquiries. I'll do all of these things. I'll do all of these things. I'll do all of these things. And they'll be thinking they've delivered this awesome answer. And then they'll get told they've failed. And they'll be scratching their head thinking, I can't understand why I failed. I can't understand. I just don't get it. I don't get why I failed. The reason why they've failed is I'm not taking a systematic approach. Because you see, the method comes there. So the first part is information. We want to be gathering information. So with the IIMARCH model, everything starts with information and intelligence. What do we know and what don't we know? What do we know? What don't we know? And what things don't we know that we need to know? And where we're going to get that information from. So in the scenario they've given you, it's like a jigsaw puzzle where a lot of the pieces are missing. This is what an investigation of crime is like. This is why. So I ended up in Special Branch. The part of Special Branch I was in was the dealing with international narcotics intelligence, and that required sometimes looking at a situation intelligence where you had one piece of the jigsaw puzzle, but you didn't know what was on the other side of it. It was face down piece of jigsaw puzzle, or perhaps you had two or three of them. So you didn't know what the picture looked like, and all the pieces that you had were face down. And you had to look at how to connect them and put together a bigger picture. And what I was good at is coming up with what that bigger picture looked like when I didn't have some of the information. But what I was good at was thinking the information I need that I don't know is X, and I need to find it to build up this intelligence picture. And so this is something that I lean into a lot because it's how my mind works. I'd sometimes get my detective sergeant saying, so that container on that ship is the one we need to search. And I'd be going, yeah. Explain it to me. And I'd be going, I can't. Just like, look, here's my mind map. And they'd be going, right, say no more. We'll go and get a warrant. We'll go and get a warrant. We'll get the joint narcotics team to get a warrant. Or the person sat in seat number 36 Delta on that plane. That's the one that we need to identify. His name is X. He's staying at this hotel. We need to execute a search warrant, or we need to put a phone tap on, or whatever the thing was. Yes, we did phone taps. I'm not giving away any secrets there. But this is the bit I really loved. Information and intelligence. So you'd start off your briefing by talking about, this is what I know, but this is what we don't know and we need to know. This is what we do. This is what we know. This is what I know. This is what we don't know. And this is where I need to go to get this information. Not going to have time to look at this next part, which is the intention. But very basically, we use the 5 building blocks of a criminal investigation. So you should be able to Google that. The 5 building blocks of a criminal investigation. There's 5 parts of it. That's why it's called the 5 building blocks. Interestingly, the last part is identify the suspect and arrest them. You'd be thinking it wasn't, will it? You'd be thinking, surely that's the first thing you do. No, you don't. You've got to build up your case first. There's no point in arresting someone if you've not got anything to put to them. Because the only reason you're arresting someone is to secure and preserve evidence, charge them if you've got enough evidence, or obtain evidence by questioning. Those are only 3 reasons why I can authorize custody as a custody sergeant: to obtain evidence by questioning, secure and preserve evidence, or charging purposes. If it's not one of those 3, I can't authorize your detention here at the police station. God, I can still remember those things. I've not been a sergeant. I've not been one of these now for years. I can still remember that stuff. It's just in your head all the time. So look up the 5 building blocks for a criminal investigation. The first part of it is making sure that we secure and preserve life. And the last part of it is about arresting the suspect. Saying that, though, you need to have a contingency in place for in case the suspect comes and faces you. And you may be thinking, surely they don't do that. I can still remember an idiot, an absolute idiot, who was stopped in a car by one of my traffic colleagues when I had 2 years service in. No, about 1 year's service. I was on foot patrol in Runcorn in Old Town. And he didn't want to be arrested because he was over the limit for drink driving. And he gave my colleague a right old hammering, and he had to go to hospital. And so the traffic car and the car he'd stopped became a scene, and I was there to protect the scene. And we had a description of the suspect. And you know this cliche that people always return to the scene of the crime? I was thinking that night, no one ever does that, until this guy comes to me and is at the crime scene tape that we put around it. And he was like, "What's happened, officer? What's happened here?" And I'm saying, "Well, it's just an incident that's taken place. We're dealing with it. I appreciate you know, if you just stay out of this area here." And he was like, "Yeah, but what really happened?" And I'm looking at him thinking, "You match the description of the suspect." And I just thought, I'm going to be bold here. I just went, "You actually match the description of the suspect. So, mate, you're under arrest." Locked him up, handcuffed him. And it was him. It was him. He admitted it. He got back to the station and he was like, I don't understand why I went to the police officer and asked those dumb questions. And I'm like, because they do actually return to the scene of the crime. It's not just an urban myth. So anyway, have a look at what we do is we turn those 5 building blocks into intentions. So my first intention is to ensure that we secure and preserve life. So just to give you a little freebie here, you know, in terms of the crime scene, you've got a crime scene that's there where someone's been injured and they're at hospital. How do you know there's not a second victim? You've turned up, well, the paramedics have turned up and found one victim there. How do you know there's not been a second victim? How do you know there's not someone in the bushes nearby who's on their last legs? The last thing you want is 2 days later finding a dead body in the bushes only 10 meters away from the crime scene. And it was identified that they'd been dead for 2 days and they were actually probably alive whilst you were conducting your investigation and setting up the scene. So we need to not just think about what do we know, what don't we know. We need to be asking questions about the things that we, you know, the phrase is, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And the more experience you get as a detective, the more you start thinking about, right, how do I know that this is the only scene? How do I know there's not further evidence in the bushes there? How do I know there's not a second victim? Because the last thing you want is to dispatch another detective to the hospital, because we also need to think about cross-contamination. I did a little triangle there, didn't I? We've got a little triangle of victim, offender, location. Only go to 1. You can't go to 2, because if you go to 2, you're going to cross-contaminate. You'll have evidence from the scene. If you take evidence, if you've been to the scene first and then go to the victim in hospital and there's blood found from the suspect on the clothes of the person at hospital, and you've been to the scene where there was some blood from the suspect at the scene, As soon as any good defense lawyer hears that you've been to the scene where there was blood from the suspect and you've been to the hospital where there's blood from the suspect on the victim's jacket, I'll be straight in on that one and I'll say, officer, is there a chance that the blood that was at the scene was transferred from you to the victim's jacket, and the only reason we found the suspect's blood on the jacket, my client contends that they weren't there, they were at their girlfriend's house, it couldn't have been them that committed the offence. Is it possible that the blood was transferred because you were at the scene and you transferred the blood on your clothing, on your hands, to the victim? And you'd be in the box going, it's very unlikely. How unlikely, officer? Oh, it'd be 1 in a million. Are you qualified to give that determination? Are you actually qualified as a forensic scientist to give that as a professional opinion? Oh, I'm not, no. So is it possible? Well, it's very impossible. No, is it? No, it's a yes or no question, officer. It's very simple. Is it possible? Well, officer, is it possible that you transferred the blood, and this is the piece of evidence that you've charged my client on, you transferred the blood from the scene to the victim? Is it possible? Yes or no? I don't need an explanation. I just need a yes or no. Yes. Thank you, Your Honour. I have no further questions. Yeah, did anyone do a gulp then? Was anyone like, I hope that's not me ever. I hope that's not me ever. And this is why we do things in a systematic way in the police, so that we don't cock up, that we don't make a mistake. So we're cognizant all of the time of this, I can't remember the actual law for it, but every contact leaves a trace. No matter how unlikely, it leaves a trace. And the amount of officers I've seen when I've turned up as a sergeant or as an inspector of crime scene, I'm like, what are you doing in the crime scene? Oh, it's just a shortcut, boss. Get out of the crime scene, you numpty. I want to say that. I've never said that to any of my officers, but like, oh, what are you doing? Screwing up the crime scene. So information intelligence, your intention, and then the method, what we do then is we link the various stages of the intention. So the intention is things like preserving life, securing the scene, securing evidence from the scene, securing witnesses through either house to house or CCTV, and securing the safe arrest and detention of the suspect. I've just given you the 5 building blocks, haven't I, actually? I've just given you them. I said, look them up, but I've just given you them. Someone's going to say, could you give me them again? So we use the 5 building blocks to build our intention. So my intention in respect of this situation, in respect of this crime, is 1, to secure and preserve the life of the victim, and also to ascertain if there's any further victims that we're not aware of at this time. Number 2, secure and preserve the scene and ascertain if there are any further scenes that we're not aware of at this time. Number 3, to secure and preserve evidence from those scenes once we have them protected. Number 4, secure and preserve evidence from any witnesses and any other forms of identification, such as CCTV, ring doorbells, cars that have got, like Teslas, that have got like multiple cameras all around them, all of that sort of thing. And then number 5 is when we've done those things and we've got the information that we need, secure the earliest safe arrest and detention of the suspect or suspects. 5 building blocks. 5 building blocks. Does that make sense? So if you're thinking, oh, this sounds easy, this, because my intention should be the same for anything. It is. If you're thinking, how does Brendan say all of those things so well, even though he left the police 11 years ago? It's because I've said those things that many times, or I've said to my officers, look, when you do a briefing, can you make sure you include things like the things I've just told you about? So this isn't just something we're doing to pass the interview to be a detective. We're doing these things because it's just good policing. By the time you finish this, by the way, and done the whole model, and you deliver it over 10 minutes, by the time we've worked with you, you will deliver an IIMARCH briefing probably better than 99% of all detectives. Because I've had some really crap briefings of detectives in the past. I've told them in the past, like, tell you what, mate, just leave my office for 5 minutes and come back when you've got a little bit more detail, because I can't authorize a search warrant based on what you've just told me. Make sense so far? So I'll skip through it. Method needs to link in with the intention, so you do it in the same order. So in your method, you'd be talking about securing and preserving life first. What are you going to do to secure and preserve the scene? What are you going to do to secure evidence from the scene? What are you going to do to secure and preserve evidence from witnesses? And then how are you going to go about looking up the bad guy? So you do it in the same order. These just stand for administration, risk assessment, communication, and health and safety. So I'm not going to go into those because they're just like, this is a key part. This is a key part. That stands for administration, basically who's going to be in charge. Who do you think is going to be in charge? Point to the person who's going to be in charge of this investigation. Yeah, Ellen, Rosella, Emma, yeah, all of you like, it's you, it's you. Yeah, it's you. Little things in the administration with things like how you're going to update the sergeant, because you're giving a briefing to a sergeant or inspector, remember. How am I going to update you? I'd be saying things like, it is my intention to update you on an hourly basis with any developments, and also by exception reporting. So if there's any important developments, I will contact you by exception. I won't wait until the hour is up. And you're thinking, God, all these phrases sound great. It's just pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, remember. You put them all together and you've got an awesome briefing. And the thing is, once you get good at this, it doesn't matter what the scenario is. And this is why I talk, almost, you might have been thinking, Brendan's talking quite flippantly about planes falling out the sky or dead bodies in baths and all chopped up into little pieces, or, you know, they don't come with a, I've never dealt with a plane crash, by the way, but I've dealt with all the other stuff, all the dead bodies and children being abused and sexual offences, and all of that stuff's just part and parcel of policing. And yes, it is traumatic, and I can probably, now I've talked about it, it'll probably trigger some horrible dream later on tonight, because PTSD with retired police officers is a real thing. But when you're there at the time, you just deal with it in a systematic way using these models. So what we find from our clients is I'm sometimes contacted them like 2 years later, once they're in, saying, you know, when you talked about IIMARCH, I still do that now. Or, you know, we talk about CUDSA, I still do that now. Because these are all things just from the world of policing, and they work so well. All right, any questions about the sort of, I've not got time to go into too much depth because I'm just looking at the time now. We're like an hour and a half in, and there's still 3 pages worth of you here, so that's awesome. That's amazing. Kelly's saying C and question. I don't know what that is. What was the C again, Kelly? Let me just scroll down to the bottom. Hang on a second. Oh, fill in the rest of the letters of IIMARCH. Yeah, okay, right, let's do that. Oh, that's a different color. That's a different pen. Let's do it in this one. That's meant to say administration. There's a risk assessment. So for things like you're going to get the bad guy, you need to carry out a risk assessment, because if they've been dangerous and violent once, there's every chance they could be dangerous and violent towards you, so, or your colleagues. Because remember that little triangle thing, if you've been to the scene, you don't want to go near the suspect, do you? Do any of you want to go near the suspect if you've been to the scene? No. You'll remember this. You will remember this tonight when you're in the police. You'll remember that the triangle, the victim, offender, location triangle. Go to one of them. Just keep things simple in your life. Just go to one of them, because you don't want, well, the only reason you found the blood of the victim on my client's jacket is because you went to the scene and where you picked up that blood, and then you went to the suspect who you thought was a suspect and arrested them and transferred some of the blood from the victim onto my client's jacket. That's the only reason you found some blood from the victim on my client's jacket. Is that not probable, officer? No, it's very impossible. It's very impossible. Yeah, but is it probable? And you've got to answer yes. And again, you look like a dick then. And actually won't even get that far, because the CPS would drop it. As soon as they'd heard there's been cross-contamination, they'll drop it, because they'll know that this is just like 101 basic. Is it 101? Do they call it 101? Yeah, 101. It's just like basic defense lawyer, this. Look to see if there's cross-contamination. Look to see if the officers have screwed it up. If they have, go in there, deep, dig. Make the officers look like complete and utter arses in the box. so that the jury thinks these officers are just arses and they're not very believable. Yeah, you want to be in the future. I can honestly say this. I've given evidence in court like 20, 30 times, something like that. The maximum time I've been in the box giving evidence is about 15 minutes. Whereas some of my colleagues would be in the box for like 2 hours. They'd come out, beads of sweat on their face, going, I got the grilling from hell there. I never got that grilling. And I know it sounds cocky, but it's because I had an answer for everything. I knew my law, I dealt with things in a systematic way. So if they tried to have a pop at me about things like cross-contamination, I'd be like, no, I can't remember the law now. It's actually a law behind it. And I'd describe it, and I'd be describing it to the jury, standing there. So I love being in court giving evidence. It was just awesome. I'd be like on show in front of the jury. And my job is to persuade them that I'm the most awesome, honest, believable, competent officer in the world. And once I've got the jury nodding, and I can see the defense barrister looking, this is Crown Court, defense barrister looking at the jury, all nodding away, I knew that within minutes I'm going to get no further questions, Your Honour, because they just want me out the box. He's too credible, get him out. Whereas if you've not dealt with the things in a structured way, and if you've made mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes in the police, but when you make a mistake in an investigation, you need to rectify it and do some risk assessment around it and damage control around it so you can mitigate it so the CPS can still run it. I've made lots of mistakes during investigations, tons of mistakes, but when we identify them, we try and mitigate it so that we've still got a case that we can run with, because otherwise we're letting down the victim. We're letting down the victim by doing a shit job. And if we're in court being grilled for 2 hours by a defense barrister whose job it is, it's not their job to find the truth, it's their job to make you look like a dick in front of the jury and look unbelievable and look like an idiot, and they'll do that. So don't be that person. Don't be that person. Top tips: make sure you know your law inside and out, and make sure you do things in a systematic way so you can say to the jury and to the judge or the magistrates, I know I did it this way. I know I will have done it exactly the way I've described it, because that's the way I deal with every drink driver, every person when I arrest him, every time I go to a scene, I deal with it in this systematic way. Boom, you're so believable. You're so believable. And if you're thinking, God, it sounds so easy coming from you, Brendan, remember 3 decades in the police service. So, you know, I've had a bit of time to develop this, but if you can like super develop it quickly, well, especially for your interview panel, even better. The C stands for, oh God, pen's run out now. Let's get this one out. Two different ways of looking at the H. Oh, that's not strong. Please. Administration, risk assessment, communication. This is how you're going to communicate not just with your team, but also with the community, partner agencies, and then health and safety, human rights. And then you have to practice it. So once you put your briefing together, you then have to practice it. Someone's just found Jessup. Is it the same? Yeah, well done, Janice. It is the same. It's from Jessup. Yeah, oh, awesome. Janice, you win the prize. Do you want to know what the prize is? She does, she's smiling. My undying admiration. You found it from Jessup. IIMARCH is not something we invented. Sorry, I should have mentioned that, where it comes from. It comes from Jessup, which stands for the, oh God, I can't remember what it stands for. Joint Emergency Services Interoperability Protocol. Jessup. Joint Emergency Services Interoperability Protocol. They are actually based, Jessup are based just down the road from where we live in just north of York. I've been to it. The cabinet office have got a big, it's like a country house there. It's really nice, honestly. It's like the country club I described from College of Policing from years ago. It's run by the cabinet. They've got the Emergency Services College there. Easingwold. So if you look up Jessup, you'll find that they're based in a place called Easingwold. I hope they're still based there, otherwise I'm going to look like an idiot. But I've been to a conference there, and oh my goodness, was it nice? It's really nice, really, really nice. But well done, Janice. Comes from Jessup. Alrighty. Let's just go through the list now. So we've done DC exercise, we've done that. Some practice questions, we'll do that after. Roles and responsibilities. examples of false questions. Yeah, we could do that. Interview questions. All right. Life experience, and the role, the impact on family and you. Oh, it's got quite a lot to cover still, haven't we? Got quite a lot to cover still. So what I think we're going to do, if I can, is a few of you have actually sent me a private message to say, could you tell me a little bit more about the academy thing? So let me just copy and paste something. See if we can copy. Hang on, let's copy that. Let's just see if this works. Oh no, hang on a minute. Bear with me a second. There's a link I can send you. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you about it in a moment. Meeting group chat. Let's see if we'll go in there. Let's see if this works. I'm trying to do IT. Oh yeah, there's a paste. Yes, there it is. Okay, so our academy program is where we work with people one-to-one. We work with people in small group webinars. There's online material. There's a ton of stuff available to you. Kelly's just said it's definitely worthwhile. There's great coaches who know their stuff. Actually, I'm going to ask you a little favor. Academy members, put some, they're doing it anyway without me asking. I was going to say, put something in there. I'd be interested in your feedback in the chat about what it's like to be an academy member. Jess is saying it's worth it. It'd be awesome if you just put something in the comments there. We actually work with you really intensely so that we can just guarantee a pass. You know, we can actually guarantee a pass for you. And that might sound like, God, that's a bit bold, but we actually do it. If you don't pass, we'll keep working with you. If you don't pass the second time, we'll give you a refund. So Lucy's saying, definitely worth it. Thank you. Kelly's saying, so many resources, regular webinars, people in the same position as you. Liam, definitely worth it. Jess, it's worth it. Emmanuel's saying, how much does it cost? It depends on your discovery call. So your discovery call is where we ascertain what your needs are, and then we bespoke it to you. What I can say is though, there's a lot of, there's a lot of support there, and there's a lot of one-to-one. So it is a big investment, but that's why we put that guarantee in there. Jess is saying, email me a coach straight away. Helpful replies, amazing webinars. Emma's saying, Mark's saying, I also agree it's worth it. Oh, thank you. Oh, honestly, all of you. Very informative. Emma's saying, had a discovery call today. Brilliant. Been invited to join. Can't wait. And there are a few payment plan options. Yeah, I should mention that. We also have payment plan options for those people who may not be able to afford a lump sum, and we can spread it over a period of months. So what I'm going to do, because you may be thinking, oh, it's Vic saying, definitely worth the investment. Resources are amazing. Coaching will get you through. Oh, just Academy members, I love you. You're beautiful. Thank you. They've not been planted here, you know. There's not many of them. Sadie's saying it's fantastic. For those. Oh, we're back again. Did I lose the signal for a moment then? Yeah, I lost the signal for a little bit. All right, so, okay. We're going to take a little bit of a break, just for 5 minutes or so. I need to stretch my legs. I need to get a glass of water. So what I'm going to do in the meantime I'm back. Oh my goodness. You know, it must be a Zoom thing. It's just waiting for me to say, I'm just about to take a break. Let's take a break. And Zoom's just gone, all right, he's taking a break. Let's decide, let's crash his internet. So let's just see what's going on. Where were we? Oh no, we've lost all the messages, or I've lost all the messages. Are all the messages still there? All right, I think they might have gone. I don't know. Okay, we're still going to take a break. What I'm going to do, if I can, we're going to return in 5 minutes. I'm going to play you, if it's okay with you, some testimonials from people who are actually part of our academy. So you can get to listen to what they say, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. And then we'll launch into all the other questions that you've got. And can you still see the messages from before, or have they all gone? All mine have gone. Can you still see the messages? Yeah, Ellen's nodding. All right, great. So, okay, cool. All right, let's just do the share thing. Share screen. See if this works. Ooh. Down there. All right. Before you joined us, how are you feeling about everything that was ahead of you? Take you back to that time. How are you feeling about the process?
Kind of looking through what the process looked like, and then it was almost that thing of going, right, okay, how do I navigate this?
What's the process of working with us?
Do things in the right way. It's not just about selling a service. I'm really pleased that all the other coaches I've worked with, well, on the webinars with Andrea and Jane, but yeah, Raj for me was just fantastic and really helped me unlock everything.
Very scared. I was quite
Okay, are we all back? Had the opportunity to stretch your legs. Awesome. And you've come back as well. A lot of you have come back. Brilliant. Let's just see if there's any questions. So I went to, okay, let's have a look. Private message. All right, cool. So, awesome stuff. All right, great. So welcome back, everyone. Let's just see, we've still got 3 pages worth of people. Wow, people came back. Awesome to see. Well, so let's push on, shall we? If you've got any questions about the Academy program, I don't want the rest of this evening I don't want to be talking about the Academy program too much, but if you do have any questions about it, do drop me a line. You've got my email address. It was in the chat earlier, Brendan, BRENDAN @bluelightconsultancy.com, and be able to answer any questions you might have, whether it's about the Academy or anything else to do with the recruitment process. And stick around, because later on I've got a little bonus for you. For those of you who are interested in the Academy program, I do have a little bonus for you. We've got a little bonus for you, which I think you'll like. I think you'll like it. So what else did we need to cover? What else do we need to cover? Ali was asking roles and responsibility of the job. This is something that I think I actually had some feedback from this from a recruiter the other day about questions on what do you believe your role will be, and what sort of things do you think you'll be dealing with as a police officer? And what they were telling me is, and I remember this as well, is that the answers are often really poor. They're really surface level. They don't go into enough depth about what the role really involves. You know, for some of, I mean, let's just get this one out of the way. Do you all know you're going to have to arrest people? Like, give me a 1 in the chat box if you know that on a regular basis, you're going to have to do something called arrest people. Yeah, awesome stuff. And by the way, please come back and join us on video. I can see we've lost quite a few people on video. I know we've been here for about an hour or so, but please do come back and join us on video. It sort of comforts me a little bit that I know, there's still people here. I hate talking to blank screens. It just really throws me a little bit. I don't know what it is. Everyone's saying 1. Yeah, so this is something, the reason why they're asking this question is they want to make sure that you really do understand what the role is about. Because forces, I know it sounds like urban myths, but they genuinely do lose a few officers in training school who, on discovering they've got to work a night shift, go, oh, no one told me I had to work nights. And you may be thinking, oh, no, surely not. But yeah, people will suddenly have this epiphany. I've got to work a night shift. What, on a regular basis? Like at night time? What, like starting at 10 in the evening or 11 in the evening? Yeah. Oh, no one told me that. And so they want to know that you know that you're going to have to arrest people. And sometimes when you arrest people, they don't want to be arrested. Not everyone is going to come quietly. Not everyone is going to come quietly. And so they want to know that you're aware that sometimes you're going to go home with a bruise or a scratch on your face, or God forbid, touch wood, it's nothing more than that. But, you know, I've worked with officers who, one of my officers, his nose was broken so badly by a bottle that hit him in the face, that smashed on his face. He was off sick for about 3 months. 3 months. Really badly broken nose. Nicola and Fiona, bless their souls, may they rest in peace. Our 2 sisters who were murdered in Greater Manchester, 12 years ago now. I can remember the day. I was the inspector on duty on the neighbouring division, and you know, had to deal with that. So, look, you know, that's not something that happens all the time. But they want to make sure that you're aware that at some point you may have to put your life on the line. And I've had a loaded shotgun pointed at me. I've had a knife pulled on me twice. I've been bitten by humans 3 times and dogs twice. I've been headbutted. You know, the loaded gun was the scariest one. That was like really freaked me out. I had about 2.5 years service. Loaded shotgun gun gets pointed at me. So, you know, if you can get through your career unscathed, you've probably not been out on patrol. You've probably not been out of the office, which isn't going to happen if you're a police officer. And then there's going to be things like the dead bodies. You know, you're going to see a lot of dead people. And you may be thinking, oh, I'll be all right with that. No, you won't. It's like, you know, every now and then something will really impact on you. You're going to have to deal with fatal road traffic collisions. I wasn't there, but one of my officers I can still remember, and I'm still traumatized by it a little bit. He got there before British Transport Police to a suicide by high-speed train. And I can still remember him shouting up for the coroner, not the coroner, for the undertakers to come and collect the body or parts of body. And the sergeant shouted up to say, are there no paramedics there to announce death? And he went, they don't need to, Sarge. I've got his head at my feet, or bits of his head at my feet, and there's bits of body strewn all over the track. This person is not alive anymore. And I can still remember just the radio silence after that. Yeah. So, look, I'm not saying these things happen all the time. You know, they don't. You know, these are these things, but they do happen. And you are going to go home and you're going to have a scratch, bruise, maybe worse. And the post trauma of that is like, someone tried to hurt me. I was just trying to help people and someone tried to hurt me, or someone did hurt me. And not just that, but also you be going back to your loved ones. And they're going to be like, how did mummy, daddy, sister, brother, auntie, uncle, son, daughter, whatever the relationship is, best friend, housemate, whoever it is, how did that happen? And they're going to want to ask you, or they might not. And you might want to talk about it, or you might not. And this is tough because it's not just you that has to deal with it. It's your family that has to deal with it. Because the next night when you go out into your night shift, so you're going out into your night shift for the next night and you're closing the door behind you. What do you think's going through their minds? You know, it's a rhetorical question. Just think about it. So when you ask these sort of questions, you know, think about, it's not just, you know, I'll be out in the community helping people, serving my community, and all the cliches. Think about the realities of what the job involves. And this is like, you know, this is the reality, what I'm giving you here. Think about how it's going to impact on you. Think about how it's going to impact on your family. Think about how things are going to impact on your colleagues. And what we look at in our final interview academy is how to answer these sort of questions, where we would look at being the most empathetic person in the room. You know, what can you do to notice the trauma in your fellow officers? What can you do to help notice the trauma that may exist that they're denying? I've had this with my officers. They'd be like, you went to a tough job earlier. Are you okay? Yeah, fine, boss, yeah. No. How are you? Yeah, you know, I'm fine. Okay, you know, just another sudden death. Yeah, but this one was a messy one, so how are you? I'm all right, I'm okay. No, how are you really? Floods of tears. They don't know what to say. Suddenly they break down. It's all too much. As a sergeant, as an inspector, I always had a box of tissues in my top drawer because I knew that every week there'd be someone in front of me in tears. Every week there'd be someone getting choked up, someone in tears, and it's okay. It's okay. So as part of your answer, you know, you need to think about how you're going to cope with things like that, how you're going to help other people cope with things like that, what support is available, how you're going to access that support. And there's another part of it that I always like to promote, especially for our academy members, is because I'm looking at all your faces now. It's all like, it's like hard truth. I'm looking at Ellen's face. Ellen's like, yeah, but it's look, that's the tough part. It's what you're going into. They want to know when they ask this question. They want to know, and it's the same as impact. You know, Ali asked a question: what's the impact on you and your family of being in the police? What does the role involve? You can wrap all of those two questions can be wrapped up in this answer. Like, these are the things I'll be dealing with. This is how it's going to impact me. This is how it'll impact on others. And you go through all the things that we talk about in the academy, and you go through it in depth and make sure that, you know, you'll have done the things that we've tasked you up to do, like ride-alongs and the sort of questions you should be asking on ride-alongs, or visits to the police station, or talk to a real-life police officer, because it's much better than Google. Or if you can't get to do one of those, you can actually say you've had a retired police officer talk to you about the sort of things that you may have to deal with as a police officer. And you could ethically say that, because are we not doing that now? Am I not a retired police officer talking to you about the sort of things that you might have to deal with in the future? So you could talk about that. Never forget though. Let me just get this for you. Let me just get this, because this is important, I think. Bit dusty, I should just start off a little bit. There you go. Look who you're serving. Or actually, you won't be. That's Elizabeth Regina II, Queen Elizabeth II. So there's something about being a police officer. You get to wear the King's emblem on your uniform. Look at that. I mean, how awesome is that? That's just awesome. Give me a 10. Give me a 10 in the chat box if you think it's absolutely awesome that you're going to be representing His Majesty. There's like 100 there, like 20, 10, 10, 10, 10. Awesome, 100. It's a privilege to do all of those things that we've talked about, like dealing with the deaths, dealing with the trauma, dealing with the sexual offences, dealing with the offenders, the victims, the tears, the trauma, the trauma, the trauma, the trauma, the trauma. It's a privilege. It's a very privileged position in society, because you are going to be in a special place in society. You're going to be a servant of His Majesty the King. Not everyone gets to do that. Not everyone gets to do that. You're a servant of His Majesty the King. You have a special place in society. You're not even employed. As a police officer, you're not employed. You're a servant of His Majesty the King. You're a crown servant. And that's why you can't be made redundant, because employment law doesn't apply to you. You can only be made redundant under employment law. And because you're a police officer, you're not actually employed. Therefore, you can't be made redundant. And that's why it is a job for life if you want it. And I think that's a real privilege. I think it's a real privilege. I think it's a real honor to serve in that way. And so it's a privilege to do all of those things on behalf of the communities of this country, on behalf of the Crown, because who else is going to do it? Who else is going to do these things? So it's not just about locking up the bad guys. You will deal with a lot of social unrest. You'll deal with a lot of death. You'll deal with a lot of the people who've experienced, the families who've experienced a death. You will deliver death messages. You will have to tell people that one of their loved ones has died. You will do really tough, difficult things. But I think it's an absolute honor to do so. Give me another 10 in the chat box if for you believe that's going to be an honor and a privilege that you want to be part of. Because, you know, I'm speaking to the country's future police officers here. And, you know, I want you to remember this, that you are going to get, you could even roll this into your answer. I mean, when you were answering these questions, we do give you structure to answer these sort of questions, but I want you to be authentic in your final interview and not just come out as some kind of CVF robot. I want you to have thought about these things and be emotional with it, you know, and be proud of the future that you're going to create for yourself and your family. My little boy, well, they're not so little anymore, but they've said it once or twice. They won't say it too much now, the teenagers, but they're so proud of me and my service. And so am I. And my wife is as well. She's so proud. And the King will be. So with 20 years service, you will get a medal bestowed upon you by the Crown, by His Majesty. And it's to thank you for your service. It's an exemplary service medal. And the Crown thinks of you so highly. It's not just a medal that comes in a post. There's like a little ceremony that you'll have where there'll be a dignitary, or it might even be one of the royal family who presents it, because that happens sometimes. It's engraved with your rank and name on the side. There's only one like it There is no other like it. It's engraved with your name on the side. So there's some thanks from the Crown for your service as well. And you'll hear about it being a thankless task. You're not after thanks, but just little things like that are helpful. And just little things like, I can still remember at a community meeting, after 3 years of being the Sheriff of Sale, that's affectionately, that's what they called me, Sale in Greater Manchester. They called me the Sheriff of Sale. Someone stood up and said, I thought you were full of shit 3 years ago when you first came here, and I didn't believe you. I didn't believe any of you. But now I've never felt so safe in my community. I've lived here since I was a baby, and I've never felt so safe. And my children and my family have never felt so safe. Wow. Or the homeless person who we helped to get a roof over his head. And the time when I took a reporter to go and see him because he wanted to sort of spread the message of what can be done when you work with the police. And it was just a great article. It was a 2-page article in the Manchester Evening News about the police. And I remember him taking out and saying, I want to show you something. And he got a little pink envelope out and he took a photograph of him. There's a picture of him and his daughter from the week before. And he showed the reporter this and said, it's my daughter. It's me with my daughter. I've not seen her for 4 years. I saw my wife last week with my daughter. We'll never get back together, myself and my wife. That's it. We're split up forever. The things I did, the things I said can't be forgiven, and she will never forgive me, and I don't blame her. But here's me with my daughter. And so I'm getting emotional thinking about it. I've got my daughter back, and my daughter's got her father back. And at that point, I'm actually getting a bit emotional thinking about it. It's like 15 years ago, this. That was it. My eyes went all glassy. What a privilege. It's my team that helped that happen. So I don't know what your future moments are going to be like, but give me a 100 in the chat box if you want your future to be that, to have those moments that you can look back on that are just like, they're just awesome. Someone said like 100,000, brilliant. Those are just beautiful moments. And so this is what the role involves. And when you deliver an answer around this, I want you to deliver it with some passion, some meaning, something that tells them that you've got some innate passion for being a police officer. Sadie's like, 100,000 million. Brilliant. Sadie, I love it. That's what I want you to convey. Not the sort of, oh, I'll be helping people and supporting people. And they hear all that all the time. It's just complete and utter nonsense. They want to hear the truth behind what motivates you to be a police officer. You understand the role, the responsibility. You understand the impact on your life, on the life of your loved ones. You understand the pride that you should feel in being a police officer. And please, for any of you who are in the police service already in any kind of role, give me a 1 in the chat box if you've heard the phrase TJF. It stands for the jobs. Give me a 1 if you've heard that. Tom's saying, yeah, 1. Kelly, 1. Not many police people in the room, but that's okay. I know it's a bit like off piece this, but could you make a pledge tonight to yourself? Because I said this once or twice, and I was quite ashamed that I said it. I think I sort of joined in the banter, and I said it. I didn't mean it, because I think it's an awesome job. I think it's the best job in the world, and it's a privilege to be a police officer. Absolute privilege. It's an honor to be a police officer. So can you all raise your hand now? Go on. That might sound a bit daft, but raise your hand and say after me, I swear on my honor. Go on, say this. I swear on my honor that I will never say the job's once I'm a police officer. All right, awesome. Give yourself a round of applause. Don't be that person. Because here's another thing, once you're in the police, you just made that pledge now. You've got to do it. You've said it on your honor. So if you ever say it, that's your honor gone. Not really. You can beg forgiveness for yourself once or twice maybe, but after that, don't get into the habit of saying this, because there's officers out there who will say this all the time. And I used to get the sergeants to have a good word with him, or when I was a sergeant, I'd have a good word with him, because they just bring everyone down. They bring everyone down. And if it's that bad, let us help you address whatever the causative factors are in you thinking it's that bad. But if after we've done that, it's still that bad, no one's forcing you to stay. No one's like imprisoning you in the role of a police officer. If it is that bad after everything we've done to help support you, then go. Because you're just spreading, this toxicity around. And no. Anyway, I've gone off at a tangent now, but I'm very pleased that a lot of you have sworn on your honor not to use that phrase. Don't be that person. Be the person who, it's like, sometimes you're going to get down a little bit, but try and be upbeat about the privilege you face. All right, let's see what else we've got. Jack was talking about his young person life expectations. If you're 17, 18, or 19 or 20, they are not expecting you to have the life experience that a 30-year-old or 40-year-old will have. So you will be talking about the things that you've done during your life. And that's okay, because they're not going to go, oh, you've not got enough life experience. That's an urban myth that people tell you because you're young, because they've heard from someone else once whose father's pigeon might have had an owner once, or a previous someone, I don't know, someone they met in a pub once, or someone they met in the pub's dog told them that, if you're 17, 18 years old, you've not got enough life experience to join the police. It's just a big urban myth, because we've coached so many people to success who are 17, 18, 19, and some of them have got more life experience in terms of their behaviors and values and what they stand for than people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. So think about your experiences to date. If your experiences to date, quite honestly, are, well, I hang out with my mates, I'm on the Xbox every evening, and I did my GCSEs and I'm doing my A-levels this year. Sorry, I've got some harsh truths for you. You're probably not going to get through the process. But if you've had a part-time job, got a part-time job, you've volunteered, you've been in Scouts or any other association like that, or you've done sports, you've just done something, you've got something about you, you've done some charitable work, you've been involved in associations at college, at school, you've been like, I can't remember her name, to be honest, but she joined South Yorkshire Police, the one I talked to you about before, the youth leader. You've done something with your life. I want to hear it. And if any of you are thinking, well, I do want to join the police in the future, but I'm not sure what to do, I need to build up some experience like that, then get out there and volunteer. Whilst your mates are out drinking mucky beer or whatever on a Friday night, go and volunteer for a homeless charity. Honestly, every person who we've worked with who has joined a homeless charity has passed. And I've had people in the past go, I don't think there's nothing I've done. And then I'll be like, what about this? What about that? And they're going, oh, no, it was a part-time job, but it was just working behind a bar collecting pots. And I don't really think I had much experience of whatever the thing is. And then I remember this guy once then saying, does being in the Scouts count? Right, tell me more about being in the Scouts. What sort of thing? Well, I'm doing my Duke of Edinburgh Silver at the moment. I'm like, dude, mate, you've got more than enough. You're doing Duke of Edinburgh Silver. So think about your answers. If you're at university or college and you give an answer that starts with, if they ask a question about a time when you worked with others to solve a problem, I'm going to give you two scenarios. Scenario one, and I want you to vote for which one's the winner, right? Scenario one, we were given a task by our tutor to do a presentation about some problem with whatever the thing is, the history subject, whatever it is, the thing. And we came together and we came up with a plan collectively, and we delivered a presentation and we all got a merit distinction for it. Versus in my role as a volunteer for a homeless charity in the city centre of Manchester, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. And as on patrol with one of my colleagues, we were out handing out clothing and food for people who are vulnerable and just being a listening ear. And one of the people I listened to, and just think of any tale of woe that someone might have when they're in a homeless situation. Which one wins? The first one or the second one? It's like everyone's putting two. Every day of the week. Every day of the week. As an interviewer, as soon as you start off an answer with, as a student, we had this task to do, I'm like falling asleep. I may even say, have you got anything better? Have you got anything a bit stronger than that? Because, everyone who's done their A-levels has had to do that. Everyone who's done a degree has had to do that. Why was it challenging? Why was it difficult? Why does that mean you're going to be a great police officer? Because if every A-level student's done it, so what? So they want to hear some so what. They want to hear some so what. And so this is why having something about you in your life, whether you're young or old, latching onto that thing and identifying that thing where you've dealt with something that's challenging, difficult, you made a difference. That's what they're looking for in your answers. So whether you're young or old, whatever age you are, they're looking for challenging, difficult, made a difference, and involved other people. If you put those constituent parts into your answer, you're going to win. You're going to win. But especially if you start off your answer with, in my role as a scout doing my Duke of Edinburgh Gold, in my role as a volunteer for Parent Teacher Association, Amnesty International, homeless charity, whatever, because you're demonstrating citizenship. You're demonstrating citizenship. And it might be a hard listen. For some of you, it might be a hard listen. Some of you might be on this webinar now thinking, I've not got anything. We could probably dive deep and find things. That's what we're good at. I've been doing this for 30 years now. Could probably dive deep and find things. But if the reality of your life is, I go out with my mates, we drink mucky beer, I come back home, play on my Xbox, I go to work, I don't seek out additional responsibility, I don't try and find things to problem solve before my manager tells me to do it. I just do what I'm told to do and I'm good at it. And there's nothing else about you. You're probably not ready to join the police yet. You're probably not ready. You probably need to spend a bit of time developing yourself as a person. Because at your interview, they're just going to go, yeah, not really what we're looking for. Okay, does that make sense, everyone? Give me let's pick a different number. Give me a 3, if that makes sense. Oh my goodness, I stopped looking at the chat and there's like 99 new messages. Oh, a lot of them are 1s and 2s and 10s and things. All right, 3s, loads of 3s, awesome. Kelly was just saying, oh, pointing out the time, you need to finish early. I do. Oh my goodness, it's 24 minutes past 8, isn't it? I've not covered a few things. Should I come back and do another one? Should we do another one of these? Yeah, give me a 10 if you think I should come back and do another one of these. I want to see a lot of 10s. If I don't see a lot of 10s, I'm not coming back. That's it. I've fallen out with all of you. Oh, a ton of 10s. All right, let's do another one at some point. Okay. Jess is saying, oh yeah, the bonus. You have to do this with me. Sorry, if I've not got a checklist in front of me. That's why I wanted the presentation. Because actually, yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't do the presentation. I'm looking at it now thinking, that might work well as an automated webinar, but I don't know. I like the sort of connection with yourselves, and I like to see the faces as well. When I was talking about the impact of being a police officer, all your faces were like, and I was thinking, they've got it. They've got it. And then when I talked about pride, I could see you filling up a little bit with pride. So I think I'd like to just run these in this format. Right. Bonus. Okay, I talked about the Academy program before. I gave you the link before. Do any of you still need the link to, what happens is it's a link to fill out a form. And once you've filled out that form, and it's just basic questions like, where are you now? Where do you want to be? What you're struggling with? Once you've filled out that form, we then invite you to book a call with us. We book a call. We talk about your needs. We bespoke a package to you. We make sure it's a good fit for you. You make sure it's a good fit for us, the Academy program. We look at whether it's a one-off payment or whether it's a payment plan, all sorts of different options. Give me, those Academy members who are here, give me an okay if that call was actually okay. Actually, but okay is not a good one, is it? Like, no, give me an awesome if that call was awesome, if it actually did nail down your needs. It's not a sales call. It's like Kelly's saying great, Jess is saying brilliant. It's not sales. It's like how we enroll you. Awesome. It was brilliant. Matt was excellent. Yeah, we don't do hard sales or anything like that. It's just got to be a good fit for you. You've got to be a good fit for us. We've got to be a good fit for you. And if all of those things marry up after a 45-minute call, then we look at the Academy option. If it's not for you, then you can just say it's not for me. But what I'll promise you you'll get out of that call is value and clarity. B's saying, I can't reapply at the moment. Now, if it's a reapply, now's the time to join the academy, because we sometimes get people coming to us with like 1 or 2 weeks, 1 week notice. It's not enough. It's not enough. You've got to be all in. You've got to be all in. You've got to be absolutely all in to the academy program. And if you are, you'll get the best out of it, because you can work on all the webinars, join all the webinars, watch all the practice webinars. Kelly's saying, I've got 2 months. That's perfect, isn't it? It's perfect, Kelly. So B, now is the time, other than, because what happens is life gets in the way, and suddenly you've got 2 weeks to go and you're thinking, oh, I need some help and support. Adrian's saying, got to go now. Right, okay, here's a bonus. Sean's saying I came with 1 week's notice, but not enough to be honest. But we still managed to work with you, Sean, I hope. We will pull rabbits out the hat for you if we can. Here's a bonus. Right, here's a bonus. For any of you who join the academy from completing the form from this evening, shall I just put that form in again? Let's see if we can find it. Let me just copy and paste it. Copy. I'll put that. Whoop, what's happened there? Oh, my screen's gone. Modern technology. I'll put that link in again. You're thinking, what, Brendan, what? For any of you who complete that form. Right, if you complete that form and just mention that you're on the webinar with Brendan, where he said, and this is what I want to do. I said before, didn't I, at the very beginning, that one of the things I really love is hanging out with yourselves, hanging out with clients. I don't get to do it enough. And it's the thing I really love. Sometimes I have to remember why I set up Blue Light 15 years ago, why I set this business up 15 years ago, why we've got 750 Trustpilot reviews that are like all glowing 5-star. I mean, just take a look at our Trustpilot account. You know, why did I do these things? It's because I love working with people. I love doing the one-to-ones. I love it. And I miss it at the moment. I miss it. So here's the bonus. Complete the form, join our academy from this call. All right, well, from the discovery call, but put it on a form and mention it to Matt or Debbie, or it might even be me. I take some of the calls sometimes. Just remind me. I'm going to do an hour's bonus with you. It'll probably turn into an hour and a half or 2 hours, but I will do a bonus hour with you. I will spend time with you using all of my skills over the 31 years of coaching and supporting people for recruitment process, specialist interviews, promotion boards. I'll give you an hour of my time, an hour of my time. So there you go. How's that sound? How's that sound? Yeah, give me a big 1 if that sounds awesome. Because I just love to hang out with you. I just like, it's my excuse. I'm trying to find an excuse to actually hang out with our clients. Brilliant. Levi, Emma 1, Josh 1, Grace, thanks Brendan for this evening. Joseph 1, Kelly, awesome. 0470, whatever, it looks like a telephone number, so give me a 1. That's brilliant, awesome. Gonna have to go in a minute. If anyone's got any questions about the academy, please do let me know. It's got to be a good fit for you. We've got to be a good fit for you. You've got to be a good fit for us. But I'd love to work with you. And I think you've all been awesome tonight. You've given me some really good questions. We've got some more to answer on another one. Ali's saying, thanks, could you quickly explain procedural justice? Ali, I've got like 30 seconds. Got 30 seconds left. Sorry, no, next one. Emma's saying, we'll let you know how my interview goes tomorrow. Yep, that's Elliot. Thank you, Brendan. Thank you. Very inspiring, motivating. Oh, thank you, Levi. That's awesome. Look forward to seeing some of you soon. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I've really, really enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed this. I hope you've got something out of it. Drop me a line in the group. You know, I'm going to put something on there posted to say, just finished, had an awesome 2.5 hours with everyone. Please put something in the comments and let me know how it went. Or if you've not got that link for the academy thing, let us know. And I look forward to seeing you on that one-to-one. I can't wait to see some of you, hear about your progress, help you with what your struggles are, add to what our coaches will be doing with you. I don't want to replace what the coaches will be doing with you, but want to add to it. So please do let me know. Sean's asking questions. I've got to go. Thank you, everyone, for tonight. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.